The glass of red wine hits the front of Sienna Marsh's ivory blouse before she even sees it coming. One moment she is standing at the edge of the reception hall, holding a plate of appetizers she barely touched. The next, her husband's hand has knocked the glass from the table in a gesture so casual, so practiced, that no one around them even registers it as deliberate. Except Sienna. She knows. She always knows. Tristan Cole leans close to her ear, his smile never faltering for the benefit of the guests milling around them. "Clean yourself up," he whispers. "You're embarrassing me again." 34 investors, 11 business partners, a live string quartet playing Vivaldi in the corner of the Grand Bellamy Hotel in downtown Boston, and Sienna, standing in the middle of it all with Cabernet soaking through her shirt and into her skin like a bruise that no one will ever see. She does not cry. She stopped crying in public 2 years ago, around the same time she stopped believing that Tristan's cruelty had an expiration date. Instead, she sets down her plate, excuses herself with a quiet smile, walks through the lobby, pushes through the revolving doors, and steps into the freezing February night without her coat. The cold hits her like a wall. Boston in winter is not forgiving, and the wind off the harbor cuts through her wet blouse as if she is wearing nothing at all. But Sienna keeps walking, past the valets, past the town cars idling at the curb, past the doorman who calls after her, asking if she needs a cab. She does not answer. She does not know where she is going. She just knows she cannot go back inside that room, cannot stand next to that man for one more second, cannot keep performing the role of Tristan Cole's devoted wife while he dismantles her piece by piece in front of people who will never care enough to notice. 7 years. She was 21 when they married, a nursing student from Dorchester with a full scholarship and a future that felt wide open. Tristan was 12 years older, handsome, established, the kind of man who made you feel like the center of the universe until you realized the universe he built had no room for anyone but himself. The signs were there from the beginning. The way he monitored her phone, the way he decided which friends were good for her and which ones were toxic influences. The way he slowly, methodically, severed every connection she had until the only person left in her world was him. And her younger brother, Auden. Auden is the reason she stayed as long as she did. 16 years old, on the autism spectrum, brilliant with numbers but struggling with everything else. Their mother died when Auden was 9. Their father left before Auden was born. Sienna is all he has, and Tristan knew it. He used Auden like a leash. Every time Sienna thought about leaving, Tristan reminded her that Auden's specialized school cost $40,000 a year, that his therapy sessions, his tutors, his medication, all of it flowed through Tristan's accounts. "Walk out that door," Tristan told her once, his voice perfectly calm, "and Auden goes to a state facility. Your choice." So she stayed. She smiled. She wore the clothes he picked out, attended the events he dragged her to, and slowly forgot what it felt like to make a single decision for herself. But tonight, something cracked. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the way he did it so casually, like she was furniture he could spill things on without consequence. Maybe it was the look on the face of the woman standing nearby. A quick flash of pity that disappeared as fast as it came, because nobody in Tristan Cole's circle wants to be the one who gets involved. Whatever it was, Sienna is done. She walks 6 blocks in the cold before her body forces her to stop. Her fingers are numb. Her blouse is stiff with dried wine and frost. She can barely feel her feet in the heels that Tristan insisted she wear tonight. She stands on the corner of Newbury and Dartmouth, shaking and looks around for somewhere warm. That is when she notices the bar. It is small and unmarked, tucked between a bookshop and an art gallery, with amber light glowing behind frosted glass. No sign outside, no obvious entrance, just a heavy wooden door with a brass handle worn smooth by years of hands. She pushes it open. Inside, the warmth wraps around her like a blanket. The space is narrow and deep, with exposed brick walls, a long mahogany bar, and the low murmur of a jazz record playing from somewhere she cannot see. It is nearly empty, a bartender drying glasses, an older couple at a table near the back, speaking in low voices, and a man sitting alone at the far end of the bar, reading a newspaper, an actual, physical newspaper, which strikes Sienna as almost quaint. She takes a stool at the opposite end of the bar, as far from everyone as she can get. The bartender, a woman in her 50s with short silver hair and kind eyes, glances at Sienna's stained blouse but says nothing about it. "What can I get you, hon?" "Just water." "You sure? You look like you could use something stronger." "Water is fine." "Thank you." The bartender nods, sets down a glass of ice water and a stack of paper napkins without being asked. Sienna presses one of the napkins against her blouse, dabbing uselessly at a stain that has already set. Her hands are shaking and she cannot make them stop. She sits there for 20 minutes, maybe 30. The jazz record ends and another one begins. The older couple leaves. The bartender moves to the back to do inventory. and Sienna stares at her water, thinking about Auden, about what happens to him if she really does leave, about the emergency savings account she has been feeding for the past 8 months, $2,600, scraped together from grocery money and loose cash she found in Tristan's jacket pockets. Not enough. Not nearly enough. Forgive me. The voice comes from beside her, and Sienna flinches. The man with the newspaper has moved to the stool 2 seats away, not close enough to crowd her, but close enough to speak without raising his voice. He is tall, even sitting down. Dark hair, olive skin, a face that is striking without being pretty. Strong jaw, straight nose, deep-set eyes that are such a dark brown they look almost black. He is wearing a charcoal overcoat over a simple black sweater. No tie, no flashy watch, nothing that screams money. But there is something in the way he holds himself, a stillness that suggests absolute control that tells Sienna this is not an ordinary man. I don't mean to intrude, he says. His voice is low, unhurried. But you've been pressing the same napkin against the same spot for 10 minutes, and I thought maybe you could use a fresh one. He holds out a clean handkerchief, actual cloth, monogrammed in the corner, with the initials K.A. Sienna stares at it, then at him. I'm fine, she says. The most familiar lie in her vocabulary. The man tilts his head slightly, studying her with an expression that is not pity, not curiosity, but something closer to recognition. As if he has seen this particular kind of pain before and knows exactly what it looks like. You don't have to be fine, he says. Not here. Something about the way he says it breaks through the wall that Sienna has spent 7 years building. Maybe it is the simplicity of the words. Maybe it is the fact that he is not asking her to explain, not pushing, not performing concern for his own benefit. He is just there, offering a handkerchief and permission to fall apart. She takes it. Kieran, he says, Kieran Ashford, Sienna. She does not give her last name. She does not want to be Tristan's wife right now. She just wants to be Sienna. They talk. Or rather, Sienna talks and Kieran listens, really listens, in a way that makes her realize how long it has been since anyone did. She does not tell him everything. She does not mention Tristan by name or describe the specifics of her marriage, but she tells him she is in a bad situation, that she has someone depending on her, that she is afraid of what happens if she leaves and equally afraid of what happens if she stays. Kieran does not offer advice. He does not tell her what to do. He asks questions, careful ones, that help her hear her own thoughts more clearly. What would you do? He says at one point, if the person depending on you was taken care of, if that variable was removed from the equation, what would you choose then? I'd leave tonight, Sienna says, without hesitation. I wouldn't even pack a bag. Then the question isn't whether you want to leave, it's how to protect the person you love while you do it. The clarity of it hits her like sunlight through a crack in a wall. He is right. She has been framing this as an impossible choice, Auden or freedom, when the real problem is logistics. If Auden is safe, she is free. You make it sound simple, she says. It's not simple. But it's impossible either. Kieran reaches into his coat and pulls out a card, plain white heavy stock, just a name and a number. If you decide you need help, he says, call this number. Anytime, day or night. No obligations, no strings. Sienna turns the card over in her fingers. Why would you help a stranger? Kieran is quiet for a moment. Then he says, because I've watched what happens when nobody does. He pays for her water, which makes her want to laugh because it cost nothing. And then he stands, buttoning his coat. Get somewhere warm tonight, Sienna, and be careful going home. He walks out into the cold and the door swings shut behind him, and Sienna is alone again. But not the same kind of alone as before. She does not know who Kieran Ashford is. She does not know that his name is the one spoken in closed rooms where the future of this city gets decided. She does not know that the bar she stumbled into is quietly owned by his family, or that the bartender has already texted him a photo of Sienna's face for his people to identify, or that by morning, Kieran will know everything there is to know about Tristan Cole. All she knows is that someone saw her tonight, really saw her, and did not look away. She sleeps at a 24-hour diner 3 blocks from the harbor, her head on her arms, the card tucked into her bra where she can feel it against her skin. She calls Kieran 2 days later, from a prepaid phone she bought at a gas station after emptying $400 from the emergency account. Tristan filed a police report claiming she was mentally unstable and a danger to herself. He also called Auden's school and told them Sienna was no longer authorized to visit. She found out when she showed up for their Saturday visit and was turned away at the front desk. Standing on the sidewalk outside Auden's school, watching his window on the 3rd floor, knowing he was in there wondering why his sister did not come. That was the moment Sienna stopped being afraid and started being furious. Ashford residence. The voice on the phone is male, professional, young. I need to speak to Kieran. He gave. I ask, who's calling? Sienna. He'll know. A pause, then Kieran's voice, warm and immediate. Sienna, are you all right? No. He cut me off from my brother. He told the school I'm unstable. He froze everything. I have $1,600 left and nowhere to go, and if I don't get Auden out of there, Tristan will use him to drag me back. Silence on the line. Then, where are you right now? Outside Auden's school, Westbrook Academy on Commonwealth. Stay there. I'm sending someone. Get in. His name is Leo. Black car, he'll have your name. Get in. Kieran, I don't know what you do or who you are or why you're. I know, and I'll explain everything. But right now, the only thing that matters is getting you somewhere safe before your husband finds you standing on a street corner. Can you trust me for the next hour? That's all I'm asking. 1 hour. She looks up at Auden's window. She thinks about the way Tristan said your choice as if any of it had ever been a choice. 1 hour, she says. The car arrives in 12 minutes. Leo is built like a defensive lineman, but he opens the door with a gentleness that surprises her. The drive takes them out of the city, north along the coast, past Salem and Marblehead, into a stretch of shoreline where the houses thin out and the ocean opens up. They turn down a private road bordered by old stone walls and bare winter trees, and the road ends at a gate that opens without Leo touching anything. The property beyond it is not what Sienna expects. No mansion, no columns, no gold fixtures. It is a large farmhouse, renovated but not flashy, with grey shingles weathered by salt air and wide windows that face the Atlantic. Smoke rises from a stone chimney. There is a garden, dormant now, and a dock where a boat rocks gently in the harbour chop. It looks like a home, an actual home. Not a display of wealth, but a place where someone lives. Kieran meets her at the front door. He is dressed simply, dark jeans, a wool sweater, boots, and he looks different than he did in the bar. Younger, more human. Come inside, he says. Mrs. Aldana has made soup. You look like you haven't eaten. I haven't. Then it's a good thing Mrs. Aldana makes a lot of soup. She follows him through the front door into a wide hallway with hardwood floors and framed photographs on the walls. One of them catches her eye, a dark-haired girl, maybe 6 or 7, standing on the dock outside, holding a fish that is almost as big as she is, grinning like she has just conquered the world. Who is that? Sienna asks. Kieran pauses. That is Jovi, he says. My daughter. He says it carefully, watching Sienna's face for a reaction. She lives here with me. Her mother left when she was 2. It's just been the 2 of us since then. Somewhere in Europe, last I heard. She calls on Jovi's birthday. Sometimes. The flatness of his tone tells Sienna everything. Jovi is the reason I don't talk about my life publicly, Kieran continues. The world I operate in, it's not safe for a child. People have tried to use her against me before. I won't let it happen again. What world, Kieran? He meets her eyes, and he does not lie. I run an organization that controls a significant part of the commerce in this region. Some of that commerce is legal, some of it isn't. I am not going to pretend to be something I'm not to you. Sienna absorbs this. She should be afraid. She should be heading back to the car, calling the police, running as far as she can in the opposite direction. But she has lived with a monster who wore a Brooks Brothers suit and attended charity galas and shook hands with the mayor. She has seen how the world's most dangerous men operate, and they do not always carry guns. Sometimes they carry corporate credit cards and file police reports and call the school to say your sister is crazy. Okay, she says. That's it, just okay. You told me the truth. That's more than anyone has given me in 7 years. Kieran stares at her for a long moment, something shifting behind his eyes. Then he nods, and the ghost of a smile crosses his face. Come meet Jovi, he says. She's going to like you. Jovi Ashford is not what Sienna expects. She is small for her age, with her father's dark eyes and a tangle of curly brown hair that clearly does whatever it wants. She is sitting at the kitchen table doing math homework with a ferocity that suggests the numbers have personally offended her. And when Sienna walks in, she looks up with an expression of suspicious curiosity. Daddy, who is this? She's going to be staying with us for a while. Jovi narrows her eyes. Is she your girlfriend? No, Piccola. She's a friend who needs help, because that's what you do. You help people. Jovi says this with the certainty of a child who has been told something enough times to believe it, and Sienna feels her heart crack slightly, because she has heard that exact tone before. From Auden when he used to say, Sienna takes care of me, that's what she does. Sienna kneels down so she is level with Jovi. What are you working on? Fractions. Jovi wrinkles her nose. They're stupid. They're actually kind of cool. Can I show you a trick? 20 minutes later, they are deep into a system involving pizza slices and colored pencils, and Jovi is laughing. A full, bright laugh that echoes off the kitchen walls. And Sienna looks up to find Kieran leaning in the doorway, watching them with an expression she cannot quite read. Something between relief and wonder and an ache that he is trying very hard to hide. 2 weeks pass. Then 3. Then a month. Sienna settles into the rhythm of the farmhouse the way water settles into a riverbed, naturally, inevitably. She wakes early and helps Mrs. Aldana with breakfast. She drives Jovi to school on days when Kieran is away on business. She plants seeds in the dormant garden, planning for a spring she is not sure she will be here to see. And every evening, after Jovi goes to bed, she and Kieran sit on the porch looking out at the dark Atlantic, talking about everything and nothing. He tells her about growing up in Southie, about his father who built the organization from nothing and died too young, about the weight of inheriting a world you did not choose. She tells him about nursing school, about the patients she loved, about the way Auden's face lights up when he solves a math problem nobody else can. They do not touch. They do not cross the line that both of them can feel vibrating in the air between them. But the line grows thinner every day. Meanwhile, Kieran's lawyers work on Sienna's case with a quiet ferocity that startles her. They petition the court for emergency custody modification. They subpoena financial records that Tristan spent years hiding. They file a restraining order backed by evidence of emotional abuse that Sienna did not even know had been documented. Security footage from the hotel that night, showing Tristan deliberately knocking the wine glass, his face twisted with contempt when he thought no one was watching. The footage goes viral. Someone from the hotel staff leaks it, and suddenly Tristan Cole's carefully constructed public image starts to crack. His business partners distance themselves. His investors ask uncomfortable questions. The narrative he built, devoted husband, unstable wife, collapses under the weight of 30 seconds of video that shows the truth. And Auden. Kieran makes sure Auden is taken care of. New school, better than the old one. A dedicated tutor who specializes in working with kids on the spectrum. Weekend visits with Sienna at the farmhouse, where Auden and Jovi develop an unlikely friendship built on their shared love of puzzles and their mutual disdain for small talk. The first time Auden visits, he stands in the doorway of the farmhouse, tall and thin and uncertain, his backpack clutched to his chest like a shield. Jovi walks up to him, looks him up and down, and says, "Do you like puzzles? I have one with 2,000 pieces and nobody here is smart enough to help me." Auden blinks. "What's the picture?" "The solar system. I'll need a table. There's one in the library. Come on." And just like that, they are friends. Sienna watches them disappear down the hallway and feels something unlock inside her chest. A door she locked so long ago she forgot it was there. She presses her palm against her sternum and breathes. "He's going to be okay," Kieran says from behind her. "They both are. How do you know?" "Because they have you." Before I continue this story, I want to pause and ask you something. If you are feeling what Sienna is feeling right now, that mix of fear and hope, that sense that maybe, just maybe, the worst is behind it, then leave a comment below with the words "I believe in second chances." Let me know you are here. Let me know this story matters to you the way it matters to me. Because Sienna's fight is far from over. The divorce is messy. Tristan hires the most aggressive attorneys in Boston, the kind who treat courtrooms like battlefields and families like collateral damage. He challenges every claim, contests every document, demands supervised visitation with Auden despite having shown zero interest in the boy for the entirety of their marriage. He uses Auden as a weapon, the same way he always has, dangling the threat of custody battles to keep Sienna compliant. But Sienna is not the same woman who walked out of the Grand Bellamy Hotel. She has people now. She has resources. She has a man who moves through the world like a force of nature, who makes phone calls that rearrange the landscape, who looks at her across the dinner table with eyes that say, "I will burn it all down before I let anyone hurt you again." She does not ask Kieran to fight her battles. She fights them herself, in depositions, in courtrooms, in the steady accumulation of evidence that paints Tristan Cole as exactly what he is. Kieran gives her the tools. She wields them. One night in March, Sienna is reading in the library when the phone rings. It is Leo, calling from the security office in the basement. His voice is tight. "We've got movement on the perimeter, 2 vehicles, no plates." They stopped at the end of the private road. Sienna's blood goes cold. Kieran appears in the doorway seconds later, already on his phone, already issuing orders in the calm, measured voice that she has learned means the situation is serious. "Take Jovi and Auden upstairs," he tells Sienna. "Lock the door, do not open it for anyone except me or Leo." "Kieran, please, it is the please that does it. Not a command, a request, from a man who does not ask for anything." She goes upstairs, wakes the children, brings them into the primary bedroom with its reinforced door and its windows that overlook the ocean. Jovi is sleepy and confused. Auden is silent, processing, his eyes tracking the movement of adults through the hallway, with the sharp attention he gives to things he finds illogical. "Why are we in here?" Jovi asks. "It's just a precaution, sweetheart. Your dad wants us to stay together for a little while." "Is it bad guys?" "I don't know yet. Daddy will handle it," Jovi says with absolute certainty. He always handles it. Auden looks at Sienna. "Tristan sent them," he says, "not a question." "I don't know, Auden." "Yes, you do. He is right, she does. 20 minutes later, the situation is over. Kieran's people intercept the vehicles before they reach the gate. The men inside are hired private investigators. Not thugs, not kidnappers, but the kind of operators who skirt the line between legal surveillance and stalking. They were paid by Tristan's legal team to find evidence of Sienna living with another man, evidence that could be used in the divorce. Kieran's lawyers file harassment charges the next morning. Combined with the hotel footage and the testimony of Tristan's own investigators, who flip when they realize the alternative is facing Kieran Ashford in court, the case becomes overwhelming. On a Wednesday in April, with cherry blossoms falling along Commonwealth Avenue, Tristan Cole agrees to a settlement that gives Sienna full custody of Auden, a substantial financial package, and a restraining order that ensures Tristan will never come within 500 feet of her or her brother again. The judge signs the divorce decree at 10:47 in the morning. Sienna walks out of the courthouse into the spring sunlight, and the world looks different, brighter, sharper. Like someone cleaned a window she did not know was dirty. Kieran is leaning against his car at the bottom of the courthouse steps. He straightens when he sees her, and his face does something complicated. Joy and relief and hunger all at once. "It's done," Sienna says. "It's done." He opens his arms and she walks into them, pressing her face against his chest, breathing in the scent of salt air and wool and something that is just him. They stand there for a long time, not speaking, not needing to. That night, after Auden and Jovi have fallen asleep on opposite ends of the library couch with a half-finished puzzle between them, Sienna finds Kieran on the porch. He is watching the ocean, his hands in his pockets, his profile sharp against the dark sky. "There is something I should have told you a long time ago," he says without turning around. "Okay, I am in love with you. I have been since the night you walked into that bar with wine on your shirt and fire in your eyes and told me you were fine when you were clearly the furthest thing from fine I had ever seen." He turns to face her. "I didn't say anything because you needed a safe place, not a man with complicated feelings. You needed to be free of Tristan before anything else could matter. But you're free now. And I can't keep pretending that what I feel is just concern or friendship or whatever word I've been hiding behind." Sienna looks at him, this dangerous, tender, impossible man, and feels the last wall inside her crumble. "I love you too," she says. "I have loved you since the night you offered me a handkerchief and didn't ask me to explain why I was falling apart." Kieran crosses the space between them in 2 steps. His hands cup her face, rough and warm, and when he kisses her it tastes like the ocean and the future and the first real thing she has felt in years. Summer arrives and the farmhouse transforms. The garden that Sienna planted in the dead of winter erupts into color. Tomatoes, sunflowers, lavender, herbs that fill the kitchen with green perfume. Jovi learns to swim in the cove below the house. Auden takes apart a radio and puts it back together, then does the same thing to Mrs. Aldana's toaster, which earns him a lecture in rapid Spanish and a second helping of the dessert. The adoption papers for Auden go through in June. Kieran sits beside Sienna in the judge's chambers, Jovi on his lap. Auden next to them solving a Rubik's Cube in under 2 minutes. The judge looks at the 4 of them and smiles in a way that suggests she has seen a lot of broken families in her career and is glad to witness one being built. The wedding is in September on the dock behind the farmhouse. Small. Just the people who matter. Mrs. Aldana weeps openly into a silk handkerchief. Leo wears a suit for the first time in his life and looks profoundly uncomfortable. Jovi serves as flower girl and takes the responsibility so seriously that she rehearses her walk 17 times the day before. Auden is asked if he wants to be the ring bearer. He considers this for approximately 4 seconds. "Will I have to make a speech? No. Will I have to dance? Only if you want to. Then yes, I'll do it. But I'm bringing my puzzle book in case the ceremony is long." Sienna walks down the aisle alone, barefoot on the sun-warmed wood, the sound of the ocean filling the space where music might have been. She chose no music. She wants to hear the world exactly as it is in this moment. The water, the wind, the birds. Jovi whispering too loudly, "She looks so pretty, Daddy." Kieran waits for her at the end of the dock. He is wearing a dark suit that fits him like a second skin, and his eyes are bright in a way she has never seen before. She takes his hands. His fingers close around hers. "I spent 7 years being someone else's version of myself," Sienna says when it is time for vows. "You gave me the space to remember who I actually am. I promise to give you the same thing. Not a perfect wife, not a performance, just me. All of me. Every day. I built walls around everything I love because I thought that was the only way to keep it safe," Kieran says. "You showed me that walls don't protect people, presence does. I promise to be present. For you, for Jovi, for Auden, for whatever comes next. In the storms and in the stillness. For as long as I'm breathing, they exchange rings. The kiss lasts long enough for Jovi to cover her eyes and Auden to time it on his watch and announce that it was precisely 8.3 seconds. which makes everyone laugh. The reception bleeds into the evening, and the evening bleeds into night, and the night wraps around the farmhouse like a soft hand. Sienna stands at the end of the dock alone for a moment, looking out at the ocean. The stars are out, thousands of them, reflected in the black water, so that it is impossible to tell where the sky ends and the sea begins. She thinks about the woman who walked out of the Grand Bellamy Hotel in February, soaked in wine and rain and shame. She thinks about the woman standing here now, barefoot on a dock in September, with salt in her hair and a ring on her finger, and 2 children sleeping in a house that smells like lavender and soup, and something she is only now learning to call home. Footsteps behind her, she does not turn. "Running away already?" Kieran murmurs, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Never," she says, "just remembering." "Remembering what?" "How dark it was before." She turns in his arms, looking up at his face in the starlight. "And how I almost didn't walk into that bar. I almost kept walking. I almost froze to death on Newbury Street because I was too proud and too scared to open a door. But you did open it. I did. That's the only part that matters." From the house, through the open window, comes the sound of Jovi's laughter, high and bright, followed by Auden's voice saying something about constellations. The sound carries across the water and dissolves into the night, and Sienna closes her eyes and lets it fill her. She does not know what tomorrow holds. She does not know what challenges Kieran's world will bring, or how she will navigate the complicated life she has chosen. But she knows this. She is not performing anymore. She is not pretending. She is standing on solid ground with people who love her, not for what she can give them, but for who she is. And that, after everything, is enough. If you have watched this far, leave a comment saying, "I've watched this far, so I know who you are and what this story meant to you." If it touched your heart, hit that like button and share it with someone who needs to hear that it is never too late to walk through a door you almost passed by. Check if you are subscribed to this channel. If you are not, you are missing stories like this one. Stories about people who refuse to stay broken, who choose love over fear, who build families out of the wreckage of their old lives. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one. Until then, remember, no matter how cold the night, there is always a door with warm light behind it. You just have to be brave enough to open it.